Hey, welcome to another Bennessy draws. Um, Tonight's a bit different. As I said, I'm kind of falling a little bit behind on the odds with this stream, so I'm going to vary the usual kind of pinups that I do with a couple of pages of the odds going forward. So next week we'll do a pinup. Week after that the odds. Week after that pinup. Week after that the odds. So that kind of format. And because only 2 hours, we won't get a complete page finished. That would be madness. It'd be amazing if it could. But what we'll do is I'll go through my process, my setup, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll start probably penciling these a bit more because they're quite rough. And we will maybe get into inks, maybe try and finish a panel going forward tonight. I'll do a little bit of talking about what I have in front of me. So I might not finish a full panel tonight. I'll try that panel in the middle here is quite forgiving. I might get that one done. But yes, we're going to change this a little bit. Another thing I'm going to change as well is the print I do in my monthly print I store on Bennessy.com. Because that's not something I planned to do, or this wasn't something I planned to do along with that every month. Become kind of a tricky timing thing to figure out. What I'm going to probably do going forward is one or maybe all of the pinup I draw on a Bennessy Draws will be made as a print for the store, or will be colored and then made as a print for the store. And there'll be a newsletter going out about that, and that you can sign up for on the website Bennessy.com. I'll have all the details nailed, figured out, planned, put it set in stone by Friday, and I'll put an email or put a newsletter out on Friday with all the details. But while we're here, while we're looking at a comic book page, which is not something I've kind of done on the stream yet, I'm going to show you exactly what I have in front of me, just so like all this kind of looks a bit weird where lines are crisscrossing, why some stuff is blue, why some stuff isn't, and why everything is extremely rough. And then I'll go into the whys and the hows, and the why not, I guess. So one thing you'd be used to seeing on my usual stream would be my thirds. I use that to lay out the page. Okay, so then we're going to go into looking at this. I'll get rid of that bar, and we'll just look at the page itself. If there's any comments or questions about this stuff, shoot, go for it. Leave it in the comments. I'll see it. This is probably one of those shows where if there is a lot of comments, about the process, I'd be paying enough attention to go back or to talk about them to catch them all as they come in. So here we go. Right, we have this panel up here, or this folder up here is like what you usually see, but with an extra. So you usually see it with the rule of thirds on my pinups. That's still here, but it's now set up for each individual panel. Let me turn off drawings in the panels. So, you know what, we'll go right back to the very start. So this is what you'll start off with, okay? And as you start off with a blank page, you'll have certain parameters in which you want to panel in. So there's a safety line, and then there's the line that you kind of want your panel to stay with inside, and then there's also the line where if you have a bleed panel, you want it to extend all the way to the page. So here's our bleed panel. It's going to go all the way to the side of the page. Generally done for reason that you want the reader to stay in this panel a little longer than the other panels, and it kind of has a subconscious effect that it'll automatically do that to somebody without them realizing it, just by taking away some panel borders. You will quickly look at these two panels and you'll kind of have your eye wander around this one. So it lets you control the pacing of your story. I tend to do this quite a lot. I quite like doing that. I know you can overdo it, but like anything, it's kind of like a color palette. You know, when it's used correctly, it can have a greater effect. Um, so I don't ever just go with the safety line, and I don't ever just go with my panel borders. I'll always sit in my rule of thirds. Reason being is deadlines are tough. You might find yourself kind of squeeze in sometime somewhere, and might find yourself in a bit of a rush. And setting up your rule of thirds will have you keep your composition more or less like as something exciting, something good, as opposed to something maybe messy, and important story details might float around the edges of your panel. It also makes you think about leaving room for dialogue. You know, try to leave a third or two-thirds depending on how much has been said. And as you plan out your page, so this is a great script made by Dave Hendrick. Obviously, you've met Dave, he's on the stream before, and we have the odds pod. Obviously, we have the odds of the odds. And it's with one of our main characters, Sean, who I was supposed to leave a little character model sheet on this. I'm just reading. I'll put that up on my Instagram and Twitter and stuff, so you can all see the model sheet. I have a couple of them here, and it does two things. It lets me know her size in comparison to everybody else, and various turnarounds on her or character details. So when I'm going to draw them, I don't have to like try to guess and remember, because 50-50 chance that you'll probably get some of it wrong. So give yourself every opportunity to get it right. Draw up a proper model sheet and always use that. And then if there's any other artists who are coming on your book doing alternate covers, at least they have a good reference to refer to. So Sean, kind of a crossbowman. She's a bit of a badass, and things are happening. I picked this page because it's quite exciting. It doesn't give away any of the story, and I'm not told anyone what issue or what page this is in the issue, just to keep those important story bits vague. So when you go to pick up the book, you don't know when this is coming. Maybe you even forgot about it. You might just get so into the story, you're just kind of taking as it comes. But in this particular moment, she's kind of getting suited and booted for a trip outside Ford Town. And pretty much everything outside Ford Town is dangerous. So there's knives, there's guns, there's crossbows, there's survivalist things she's packed if she gets stuck out, you know, all that kind of stuff. I've left this quite kind of symmetrical-ish, like she's in the center third, hands kind of float at the top thirds, and I want to keep her in the middle because I'm going to try and lead your eye down into the second panel. As you kind of look at her, you will then, your eye should follow down this way. I've tilted or dutched this angle, as they say, for a couple of reasons. It's a little bit more exciting. It can make big moments bigger, and it can make dull moments a little bit more interesting. And she's only putting on a jacket here, but I've dusted it to kind of make something kind of plain look a little bit more interesting, and it's all going to lead your eye into the bottom bleed panel, that tilt. So your eye will kind of go with Sean into this panel. We even have a line directing us down into Sean here, and her tilted body will lead us down into the third panel here, where we have her holding her shotgun. She's now fully kitted out to go outside Ford Town, and it's game on. And I did a few things here that I wouldn't usually do, like breaking panel borders. I think that if you do that, you run the risk. There's lots of people who do it, and it can look really good. I think Stuart Immonen is one of the best in the world at it, because when he does it, he rarely, if ever, leads the eye in the wrong part of the page. What I mean by that is, if there was a panel between the second and the third panel, so this would now be the fourth, having Sean encroach on the second panel and lead the eye into the wrong panel first. You have to go around, and generally there's a foot or an elbow or something that leads the eye into the wrong panel by accident when you're trying to break these panel borders. Seen Byrne is quite good at doing these. He rarely, if ever, leaves the eye in the wrong part of the page as well. But if you are going to break it, make sure that you're not breaking the rule. You're not leaving your audience or leading your audience into the wrong part of the story. And again, I have my rule of thirds on all these panels. I know where the eye line is set. I have a very good idea as to how much space is left on the page for dialogue. All that stuff is all figured out. One thing I probably showed before I did that was the kind of thumbnails I do. They're very rough. It's just this. It was just something like that. So you can kind of see where let me make another folder so I can turn these on and off quickly, so you can see my deviations from the thumbnail image to my pencils, and I might even deviate from pencils because they're very loose. I might just get as far as like tightening those pencils tonight. I'm not sure. I'll figure that one out as we go along the stream, and you'll see where it starts to the middle part to hopefully where it ends as well. What I could do is when I finish this page 8, so it won't be tonight, might be later on this week, or it could be next week. This is a page I didn't finish last week, and I wasn't particularly happy with it. I read it again on Monday night, and I was quite happy where it was going Monday. Sometimes you just have to do that, you know, and the page is already better for the effort, so it gets that effort. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. And if there's any questions regarding technique, shoot. You can see how loose everything is here. I'll talk more about my technique as I'm going through this tonight, because it's very early days in terms of me kind of figuring this out. Like, I'm not even sure I figured out like Sean's hands specifically. I think have her face more or less where I wanted it to be. And I haven't figured out the perspective. That's what I want to talk about tonight. When I'm doing my my page layouts, I tend not to get too caught up in those kind of specifics, because I find it can stiffen up everything and you lose a lot of energy, and sometimes you can lose the point of the piece of information you wanted to have on screen or in your panel. And the best thing I think you can do to beat that is to just draw it. Just get in and plot your points down on the page, and then when you have that figured out, you can follow some of your points back to find where your perspective is actually set, and then you can go into drawing it properly. So there we go. That's kind of where we start. There's, what would I say? There's probably about an hour and a half of work in this much, and maybe a bit more, but somewhere in and around that. And then I kind of find that I tend to be about 2 hours ish, depending on the panel and the detail, that kind of stuff. But because I'm fitting this in around other things, because this is a job for love, not a job for money, I tend to try and spend about 2 hours at weekday night on this, when all going to plan, it's all working out, and there's no other work getting in the way, that kind of stuff, which was a big case last year. This year has been a bit easier, and I think some of this has been some of my best stuff, so I hope you like it. I can't wait till it gets out into the big bad world. Me and Dave have been we've been sitting on this one for a while. So I'm going to work on the background first. I don't know if I've done it here much before. I think I have just hinted at bits of perspective tools. I've never actually used them. So I'm going to, first off, sorry, Kieran, I just seen the rate didn't work again. I think it's on the platform I'm streaming on. I'm not actually streaming directly on Twitch. I'm streaming through StreamYard. and I'm not getting a notification or anything about it. But thanks, man. I thought I'm pretty sure if I jumped onto Twitch on this monitor now, like there'd be a massive echo. It would get a bit weird. I gotta talk to you. We gotta figure this one out. We gotta figure this out. We gotta figure this out. Because that has to happen. But I tend to stream on Twitch and I stream on Twitter and I stream on YouTube. So it's a couple of things. But thanks for coming in. Thanks for being there. You're a legend. Thank you. Kieran, by the way, I just put up a load of Carrie and Rufus pages on my TikTok on Bennessy's Tick. He was the colorist on it. He's amazing. If anyone's in and around Twitch or can see his comments, click on the profile, give him a follow, check out his stream. He's great. But yeah, so starting off, the perspective tool in Sketchbook is pretty brilliant. Here it is. You just press P on the keyboard, and we have a choice of 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, and forced. And I am for this panel where it's 1 point. It's going to be somewhere up here. Best way you can always find your horizon points is to take out your ruler, draw your lines back. Same on this side. And we know roughly my horizon line is up there somewhere, okay? When you're setting your perspective grids, or your horizon lines, I should say, you never really want it in the middle. It gets quite boring. Don't do that. Try have it in the upper or lower third, or if you're tilting or moving, or sort of in the left or right hand side of the panel or screen, okay? Tip. And so we have that more or less. I'm gonna get that right in there. And the best thing about this, guys, I can lock that. I didn't realize that early on, and sometimes then when I'd be drawing lines, I'd accidentally move it, and it'd be a real pain to try and put it back in where I needed it to go. So I'm going to get rid of those lines. Don't need them anymore. And sometimes, just because computers crash and break your heart, I will draw in the vanity point and the horizon line on a layer, lock that layer. So if something crashes and I can't get my horizon to go back where it needs to be, I can't find it, I now have a layer exactly where I know that that point is. And I was about to turn off something there, and I forgot I was going to do it. I'm going to do it now, because the last time I left the music on, it drowned me out too much, and it was difficult to hear me. So I'm going to have the music on at the start, possibly the end of the show, but not in the middle. There we go. And we're going to draw a bed. So I usually have tons of reference, because I always kind of find that the work is always better for having something to refer to as opposed to something that's just coming from the top of your head. So her bed here, like they're in a post-apocalyptic town. It's not a great place. It's not exactly full of luxury. So her room here is quite Spartan-esque. It's very plain. And there's no headboard even on the bed, I don't think. And we will see some weapons laid out on the bed. We will see her beds, and that kind of stuff. At this point, I'm not thinking about little details. I'm just trying to make sure everything is in perspective and referring to it properly. That's all. I can already see that it's probably a little too high. So I'm actually going to lower it down. This as well. Nothing's locked. And that's looking a little better. I don't want the end of the bed to tangent with the end of the panel. It would look kind of weird. So I'm going to leave it about there. And then it'll be a little bit more of me figuring out Sean's back and arms, that kind of stuff, but that's okay. Now that we have that done, and I feel better about lowering that, let's get into it, will we? So there's our grid. There's Sean. We're going to turn Sean off for a second. And this is our rough, kind of like a concept picture, I guess, right? So it's not, it's kind of the start of stuff. It's just the things I needed to know where I can put them as opposed to the actual background. I tend to get pretty loose with these things. I'm going to lower this now because we did lock it. And that's kind of why I might be a bit slower tonight. This might be just with kind of pencils, that kind of stuff. And then the edits I put up this week might be a little different. Let's do like my one long edit. That might be me talking about the process, why I'm doing this, that kind of stuff. So there we go. Leaving the pencils on for this. Like my pencil somewhere around. I don't like it around my ink. I like it kind of somewhere around a 5. There we go. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so the bed. Rectangles, guys. Surprise, surprise. And don't be afraid about things changing on you. That's just going to happen. That's just part of it, okay? So I already see that the bedside locker would be a bit higher up. Okay. And you can see how great this tool is. Like, it's not letting me draw on anything but the perspective that one point would refer to. Like, I can't just squiggle it. It's all straight and it's all in the line. It's a great way to get your background laid out. It's a lot like setting up your pieces of string on the vanishing points and kind of drawing like that. It's another reason why I really like Sketchbook. Like, it's the tools really feel like they're more influenced by techniques you use traditionally. That's part of the reason why I found it so easy to pick up. Tip on line in the middle of something. I need to find out where I'm putting the knob for the bedside drawer. It's about there. And at this point, we're just making sure everything is kind of going where it needs to go. We're not getting too caught up in the details of the process. After this, we're going to draw it again, basically. We're just going to make sure everything's going in the right area. Because you might find things in your concept drawing are incorrect, and that's okay. This is the time to find that out. This is when you change it. In the center for that, she has like a little tiny bedside lamp, and that's pretty much all that on her bedstand. Oops. Just leaving in bits of details of where wires will go, that kind of stuff. I'm not thinking about like texturing or hinting at what something is made of, that kind of stuff here. This is just me um, doing a little bit of figuring out what it's supposed to look like. It tells us a little bit about our character as well. What is she like? Does she keep a tidy room, a messy room, all that kind of stuff. All these things kind of are also kind of a character design opportunity. Um, Kind of an important one actually. So if you see me looking over here, I'm just looking at my reference. That's all. I was going to put them into the PSD file here, but I kind of figured I'd be turning layers on and off again, and it would get annoying very quickly. Too high in bed. So there's actually a way to find out like how fences um go in perspective. If they're going forward, that kind of stuff. You have the start and end of a fence, and quite like how I found out where the middle part of the lampshade was, you find out where one of the stakes in the fence is, and you do the same from that point. You find out where the next stake is in between the one you just found and the first one, and then you do the same for the last one, and you keep doing that until you have your fence. And I could do that there for the little radiator I'm gonna draw. But because I'm only seeing like one little part of it, another part, I can be kind of a bit freer about putting that in. I don't need to worry so much about that. Always refer to your perspective when you can. I'm going to be quite loose with these little bits of details now because I know Sean is standing somewhere there, so there's no point in getting too caught up in stuff. But that said, I do want to make sure that I've drawn these things properly. I know where they're supposed to sit. If I feel like I have to change something for it, I can. If I can move them around, this is the time to do all that stuff now. But so this is kind of like Sean is going to war. So she's got a bandolier out. She's got a few guns, a few knives. You name it. This is her getting ready for a big day. You can see how loose that is there. So Sean is here. My points and details are obviously in and around her here. So I can already see that bed's a bit short, isn't it? It's a bit. I think we should go back a bit further. We can do that now. Um, Yeah, I'll do that next. Okay. Um, so a quick way to fix that would be to do all in the same. See if that worked out. So I might do it for the radiator, or I might move the radiator down and see what happens there. But on this side of the screen here, I just want to make sure I have the end of the bed, just so it doesn't feel like it goes on. Just it's going to look a bit more. Um, it's going to look better on the panel. Maybe over here, then I could have another little kind of a quiver. And here, then I'll start putting a shape for the crossbow, and then I'll go back and I'll make sure this adheres to the perspective that we started off with. That's why you just don't get too precious with these things when you start off. Just make sure you get your kind of story beats in, so you don't get lost. And always get your reference ready. So I'm currently looking up stuff for small arms, so handgun kind of stuff. Kind of reminds me of that one of those scenes from The Punisher where he had all his weapons laid out on the wall. So you can kind of see she's quite neat. Um, Certainly driven, and knows her way around some weapons. Not someone you want to get on the wrong side of, believe me. And a few people do. Okay. I'm gonna put in another knife here across the bed. On this side, I'm gonna draw in a shotgun. Too low down, about there. Maybe because she's standing in the middle, I might throw a pillowcase to the left-hand side or something. Yeah, put the radiator down near the end of the bed. I just remember being in a hotel room where there was a really annoying radiator kind of at the foot of the bed, and it left all this space between the wall and the bed. And I don't want her being in a place that's extremely comfortable. I kind of want her in a gritty, Spartan, as I said, kind of horrible place to be in. Okay, so I'm just making sure the shotgun and drawing. I have all the shapes down, so when I go to draw this out again, I'll be drawing this out again. Probably just with pencils tonight, um, because there's a few bits of details in this, and I'd never really done pencils outside of the Levi drawing that I did when I first started doing the channel. Um, and I did talk a little bit about um the technique, why I was choosing this, why I was looking for that shape, all that kind of stuff. So I'll revisit that now and do it a bit more in depth. If there's any questions regarding anything, please shoot. Um, and what else would a survivalist have? Maybe some other kind of weapon on the bed. Another knife, why not? Throw in a thought this as I drew one last week. Why not? Okay, that's looking a bit better. We'll turn this there off now. All the details I needed from that are not needed anymore. Save as we go along. We have our bed. So I'm going to draw Sean now, just kind of pencil her out a bit more. And always referring to the model sheet, make sure I'm drawing the knife right. So I know what the handle is supposed to look like. And belt, all that kind of stuff. Excuse me. You can see I'm kind of being very quick and rough there. All right. Let's turn off the grid. Grid. Calling it a grid even though it wasn't a grid, just a horizon line. So I'm going to pencil Sean a bit more. And I'm going to be a big brave boy and start with the hands, even though hands are hard. So there's no point in kind of giving Sean these dainty, pretty hands. She's a woman of action, so I'd imagine they're calloused, quite tough. Plus, she's kind of living on the wrong side of an apocalypse here, so I'd imagine there's some wear on the body. What was I doing with that finger? Why should I? Just realized the index finger are longer than the middle finger. Again, this is why we redraw stuff. We make sure we get it on model. I love that Pixar saying of fail often and fail early. You know, it does matter. It's okay to go get things wrong so long as you spot them, and it's absolutely important to experiment a bit as well. Okay, so she's kind of got like very kind of army here, pair of combats, S top, tank top kind of stuff, and then just weapons everywhere. Just drawing through things for now. Just I'm not getting too caught up in making sure I've drawn everything. See, I'm just making sure the belt is falling on the right lines, that kind of stuff. And things like this knife, like how it sits into the not a scabbard, but it's like a belt part. Like it's not something I've seen before, not something I would have thought of doing if I hadn't looked up the reference. So it's important to go and look up your reference and get all that stuff in early before you start putting ink to page, because you might find something with a bit more effort that can tell everyone a bit more about your character, and it's very worth doing. Um, it's not a waste of time. Look up the stuff, find out why maybe one person has a knife like this or a knife like that, and what point those kind of knives serve. Um, there's a great film called The Hunted with Benicio del Toro, Tommy Lee Jones, and Benicio del Toro has been trained by Tommy Lee Jones. It's kind of like Rambo with just knives, and which is a good concept. And the knife that Benicio del Toro and Tommy Lee Jones uses several little changes on it for several different reasons, all quite specific. And you will find adding in these little things will add an extra bit of weight to your character and the believability people can have in them, and all of it worth doing. Like things like, making sure if your character is left-handed or right-handed, um, find out everything you can about them. Just make sure a few of these things are going the right way. That's good. Could be better. There's no point in doing a lovely drawing if they're not adhering to like perspective and anatomy and all that jazz. You'll see a little deviation on my part from my character design when I post it up later. The pockets on her jeans are a little different. On her combat, I'd say, are a little different. Not her jeans. I might keep more or less everything on model from the get-go. Um, but as I might have started off drawing her out, I might have kind of found myself finding a better way to draw her, a more interesting shape, or it makes a better silhouette for her. And like when you find that, it's just better to go and do that, you know. I think I might have made that a bit too big. Yeah, it's looking better. And again, don't just copy what you've drawn on the other side. You don't want this to twin. You want it to feel a bit more alive. If it's your first time on the stream and you don't know what I mean by twinning, feel free to ask. There's no stupid questions here. And then these little marks that you make on the body, always try to, when you are doing them, always try to make sure they're helping inform the volume of the person or the thing that you're drawing as well. Kind of gave her a little stub thumb there by accident, didn't I? There we go. Okay, so turn this one off now. Not even turn it off, just get rid of it. Okay, so there's Sean. Lock that one in. Go back to the bed now. And because I moved perspective line, I'm gonna just do this again, but with a bit more intent of something being finished as opposed to quite as rough as I was doing here initially. It's a bit too skinny on the bed, I think. Probably about there. Doesn't look right though. We're gonna go with that. Yeah. All right, so make sure I have the right reference for those clips for ammunition. Again, there'll be something on these that you don't know about off the top of your head, and just by looking it up, you'll amend that and lend something a bit more tangible to them, make them more real. always worth the effort. Because I gotta just make sure I have my perspective grid more or less in because I did move it. I don't want to just adhere to the rough that I edited. So I can see here her hand is kind of taking some of the silhouette out of the bandolier. I'm going to try to put that back in here just by just drawing it in. I like doing those kind of flat lines on the base of things. It kind of adds a bit more weight to them. And there's things here I'm kind of seeing for the first time of the spring in the clip and some things that I'm just going to draw those in, make her look as though she's taking these things apart. She's very familiar with these things. She's cleaning them. She's reusing them. She knows what to do with these things. She's very familiar with all these weapons, and she's a very dangerous woman. So I have a shotgun reference here as well. And I know I had these shells here in perspective, but I'm actually just going to litter them around a bit. Oh yeah, or Tonfa. Very Ronin inspired from last week. There we go. And even though the weapons are kind of laid out tightly, her bed is. I don't want to make it look like she was just kind of getting into business here. There was no time to go clean her bed. There was just time to go and make sure all her weapons and all the things she'd need for this particular job she's about to do are ready. So when you lay out pages like I do at the very start, where I'm not adhering to any kind of perspective, just to kind of make sure I'm hitting the story beats, you will always find out that you've got some perspective and kind of layout issues as you go through the image. That's fine. Just make sure you fix them as you go along. Again, just find the middle of something. I make it too small, make it a bit bigger. There we go. There's a horizon line, so the top of the lamp is over that, so we start seeing under it. We'll see these bits here. We'll put that on a curve. And the line for plug. I wanted a quiver or something here. There might even be like bolts in progress that she kind of makes. So I might make some of those kind of unfinished. Again, lending more to her story, what kind of person she is, how capable she is. Okay. At this point now, we can start putting in the details like cracks in the wall, that kind of stuff. And we turn that one off. I think we see that she is getting game ready. We'll go in now and do the same kind of stuff in panel 2. I'm working in Sketchbook. This is another little thing I like to do. I have a work file, a folder, and I have an angle folder. So the angle folder is there just to remind me that's the desired angle I want this finished panel to have. But I have to find it if I'm doing like a 1 point perspective drawing that, yeah, I have to use the ruler quite a lot and it kind of slows me down. So what I do is I do a regular 1 point panel, and then at the very end I put that at the Dutch angle from the rough here that I want. That way I'm quicker roughing out my perspective, and it's just a lot easier. It's well worth doing. So we'll do the same thing we did on the top panel. We'll trace our lines back, try and find out where our vanishing point is. And turn that down. Open our perspective tool again. This looks like another 1 point. We'll keep it at 1 point, but we'll unlock it. And our lines are going back somewhere off the page. Oh, wrong layer. Open up a new layer and just follow these lines back. Okay, so it's somewhere crisscrossing out along here. Now we'll get our tool, follow this middle line back. See if we can land on this. Look at that. Oh, no, not quite there. Maybe out a bit more. Remember, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Just close to what you have. You can still end up with what you are looking for if it's 93% of the way there. Okay. So again, a very Spartan existence. There's nothing on the wall. There's no family pictures or anything of any real emotional value or material value. Just what she needs every day and love. Some of it will be kind of by design, or what she'd like. The rest is just because it's the end of the world and you will just kind of deal with what you have. And you don't get much of a choice in it. I'll just leave it as that. Nothing too fancy there. But the window is coming from off screen right there. So bit of a shadow. And I'm playing with the shadow a bit. I'm not really adhering to perspective. Sean is right here, and I want to use that shadow to kind of keep our line going back into her, our eyesight going back into her. So bits of kind of holes in the wallpaper kind of stuff. Cracks going through parts that no longer have wallpaper. Just want to make this place look really dingy. That might be the one we finish today. It's already 10 o'clock. We've had roughly things up by about 11. We tend to do these things for about 2 hours. I'll see if I can get um, Sean done in this panel, maybe for maybe just to have something kind of inked tonight. But again, more about the process. Than anything else. Turn that off and keep it. It's pretty simple. I'm actually going to ink this one up now. I have the perspective tool saved. Get this guy in. 7. I think it's 7.1 though, don't I? There we go. All right, so this is a pretty easy background to do. There's not much detail in this. Sometimes I do these when I'm working on a work folder, as I call it, as opposed to the angle folder. Purely because when I have the perspective saved in, it's easier to go and do it now while it's still there rather than try to find it again later on. And while you're doing this, make sure to give yourself some real estate when you dust the angle and draw past the panel border. You can always go back in and take some of those things out later on, but you don't want to have to do it all later on or try to figure out where or not try and figure out, but find yourself wishing you'd left the vanishing point somewhere saved so you can go back to it and do it really quick. Make life easier for yourself. Just in the straight, there's a curve on this line, so I don't want to follow that perspective all the way back. Okay, so I'm going to Dutch this now. Try and copy this one. There we go. Duplicate it just in case I do something silly. But go back into, nope, raise that back over here. I just want to lower this. I kind of feel like as I was drawing it, it was too high. I now know why I felt like that. It was too high. There we go. That's more like it. And then we can tidy up all the stuff. Doing things like skewing the angle like that create a sense of kind of uneasiness as well. This is exactly what I kind of want to have here. So um, use all these little things for the reasons they are. You'll find you'll get way more bang for your buck. So I am going to turn off my birds here because it's in my way. And I'm going to get the pencil out again and make sure I draw her on model. So again, I will put up the character design. I'll probably put it up right after the stream, actually. And you can see my lines here for the head. I try to have the eyebrows always go back to the top of the ear, and the nose go to the end of the ear. Eyes should match up as well. Trick on finding the nose is the middle point between the two eyes. Any tricks? Yeah, when you lower your eyeline down, it should land on the mouth, on either side of the face. Any little tricks like that? I can't think of them, but if they come up as I'm drawing them, I'll talk about it. Again, just figuring this out. I'm gonna go. This is not the finished ink, but I think I have a good idea here as to what shapes and lines my details are to fall on. And I was kind of going just for a dead stare here, not a big angry face, just one of kind of concentration. Just really getting a more of an idea for everything here. Filling out some shapes with a bit more detail. Um, Solving some things that I would have left myself to figure out. Maybe a little too much to figure out as I was going to go inking. Um, Always drawing in, showing the volumes and things. No. Sometimes you can get a little bit too caught up in the nitty gritty instead of just putting down the basic shapes. Um, Try and catch yourself when you do that, because I guarantee you'll end up lose Sorry about that. I have absolutely no idea what happened. My whole computer just seemed to freeze up. Uh, I'm very sorry. Um, I'll try and get everything back together here. One sec. Luckily, when I turned everything back on, everything still seemed to be there. Um, Very disappointing. Very disappointing. Didn't think that could happen. Uh, Pretty sure by now I had it all figured out. That is really annoying. There we go. Okay. Let me just make sure that it's back up everywhere. I'm very sorry about this. There we go. I can see it's back on now. Oh, that's really annoying, guys. Yeah, very sorry. Um, didn't think that was even close to a possibility at this point. I thought I had it all. I thought I had it all lined up appropriately that that kind of stuff wouldn't happen. Very sorry. Um, I feel like I owe it up to you guys now. Try and fix that. I don't know. Thanks for staying on. Actually, there's still quite a few people watching. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Um, yeah. I'll get back into this. Very sorry, guys. Looks like this video will have a bit more editing than the other one anyway. So happy that it's going to be a change in format. It will definitely be more of a technique discussion video and um uh, just realized I had all that drawn. Do I have the background? Oh, don't do this. We should have the background here somewhere. There it is. Okay. Well, there we go. First major malfunction. And how annoying. What happened there? I must ask about that. I have no idea if that's a thing on whether it's just something I did or if it's something that happens on this platform. I have no idea. Right, so just you don't want to see me draw this again then. Hang on. We'll go to the third panel and we'll try and knock on this really cool one. When I do break panel borders and I have a person to draw, I just turn that off. There's no point in having that kind of stuff in your way. It just gets really annoying and lends itself to you getting things wrong, which you don't want. Um, I found this to be a bit of a tough angle. As you can probably tell from all the scribbles. But I'll try and tighten up a little bit here now. So when I go to ink this, at this stage it's 10:30. I'd imagine I'll be inking stuff tomorrow night. I'll post up what I can when I can, maybe. Um, but I don't think we'll get to it tonight. We'll just talk about the process. And if anyone's out there maybe wants to talk to me about a process of streaming on a platform that doesn't crash, please let me know in the comments. I'd be very interested. Thanks a lot for hanging in there. There's like we actually have more people joined in now. Thank you. Than we had like before the stream. Right on us there. But yeah, I did find this pose quite tough. When I find the pose pretty tough, I take out my Gorilla Pod, put my phone into this part here. It slides in and top stands there on something, little tripod. And I stand in front of it and I get the shot that I need. And it helps. Instead of scribbling out iteration after iteration, not quite getting the pose I'm looking for or not happy with the way some element is going. I go straight to that now because deadlines are deadlines. Yeah, not going for that big, angry, stern kind of like a Zan face, where it's very much that just brow always there. This is just a face of acceptance, concentration, and she has a job to do. So it's all business here for Sean. Yeah, still figuring out the shapes. Um, just in case you think things are being a bit clunky or a bit off. I'm just kind of seeing how far I can push a silhouette here because I might sometimes to get a better silhouette, I might actually do something that's not anatomically correct, regards perspective in any kind of proper way or format. Um, just so it pushes story forward. Um, where is my? There it is. I forget the guy's name, but there's a bow hunter show on Netflix. Um, I remember like kind of modeling Sean's crossbow on his. I forget the guy's name. And I had this like character design for Sean right out of the gate. The leather jacket with an asymmetrical zip, um, backpack, the binos that go over that, and I think this issue was the first time I had to draw all that together. And up until this point, it's kind of been bits and pieces of all here, not the full lot. And even for these kind of things like where you're working out the character design, even of a post-apocalyptic folks who might not be of the best fashion sense or can get to the best boutiques. I still would recommend kind of following fashion accounts on the likes of Instagram or something like that effect, just so you get a bit of variety in your designs. Um, really helps. There we go. Turn that down a bit. I had a few shotguns in mind for this, so I drew them on a different layer and settled on this one. See, she doesn't really use a shotgun um, much up until this point, and it's all been crossbow. So I didn't want to give her this big, amazing, brilliant shotgun, because then wouldn't she just be using it all the time? Um, so it's kind of a bit small. Forget the name of it now because I saved the image so I could keep referring to it. I saved this image like a long time ago. I'll just block it out for now and get into those bits and pieces a little later on. Again, very loose, just figuring out the shapes. I might come back and change my mind on this shotgun. It's looking a bit like a Nerf gun or something at the moment. I prefer it to look more like a shotgun. Um, I'll come back to that. Just drawing in shadows where they're going to fall on this leather jacket. Again, they don't have to adhere to reality so much as they definitely should inform the volume and have a certain kind of aesthetic to them as well. Just don't get beaten down in the nitty gritty. You're here because it's supposed to be a lot of fun as well. Wasn't paying attention there. It should go kind of skinnier. So it's in perspective, not a straight line. Is it the kind of modern kind of quiver I've seen on a few crossbows? It's like a top and a bottom, and all the bows are kind of in the middle. Um, don't really know how they work, but they look pretty cool. Again, something I wouldn't have figured out if I wasn't doing my reference, put my reference folder together. Okay, it's an asymmetrical coat. Zip is down the left hand side. Things like having my model sheets outside so I know what side of her the belt buckle faces. Like these things kind of matter. You don't want to get that wrong panel to panel. You could day to day with a character that look like a new belt or something if it's supposed to be, but you don't want to just get away with stuff. You want to make sure you have what cross the T's, dotted the I's, the lowercase J's for those Wayne's World fans. Again, not looking to have everything figured out now, but avoiding tangents where I can, even at this point. She's one of my favorite people in the book. She's so much fun to draw. And when you're drawing hands, the whole part of like it can all bends, it all squashes, it all stretches. Don't be drawing it all very linear and kind of boring. You can break up the shapes quite a lot more than you think you can. If you kind of find that your hands are looking a bit stiff, um, time to stop doing what you're doing and start practicing a couple of hands in the same pose you're trying to do to make sure you get it right. Guarantee the second you put some real reference in front of yourself, you'll end up with a far better hand. All right, that's a bit tidier. Really happy with that. Let's get that going, maybe. Figure it out a bit more while we're here. We may as well get this thing like almost pretty much completely penciled, even though we had that bit of a blip in the middle where everything crashed. But thankfully I didn't lose much work, just some of Sean here. He's putting on a coat. Sides on the back. Kind of got a hard edge there. Got one of those kind of things. So pretty sketchy tonight. A little different, but I think lots of process, a bit of behind the scenes. I hope you liked it. Um, if you did, I will continue to do this. As I said, I'll do a pin-up one week and then a page beyond the next. Um, I like where this is going. I'm just going to try something on this third panel here because I think maybe I could make her a bit bigger. Where's my, there we go. No, I like the other one. I want to see more of what she has on her. And when I zoom in, I don't get that. Yeah. Okay. We'll go back and have another shot at figuring out the this pose. But one thing I was trying to say was maybe I did say at the start where I tilt adjust this angle to lead us into this pose here. So it is kind of weird that I'm not actually crossing the camera line, but I have our screen left, then I have our screen right. But in terms of comics and reading left to right, top to bottom, it's perfectly acceptable, and it's like I don't know how you feel about it. I kind of feel like I have to find a happy mid ground where I'm obeying the rule, not the rule of thirds, where I'm obeying and not crossing the camera line, and using comics as the medium they're supposed to be. Um, I tend to favor that camera line far more than I probably should, but I do. At least the second time around you draw something, you tend to draw it better. Thanks again for everyone who stayed on there while the stream died. I appreciate that. Just looking at my character design here. So it's an asymmetrical coat. There's plenty of jacket to go from this side over to that side. And collar on it is a bit different than your usual collar as well. And just always referring back to the model sheet. As you can see, I'm still breaking things down into simple shapes. Um, when I get everything kind of figured out and I have that silhouette pose, the whole lot kind of in front of me, I can go back and I can add a bit more to this, squash something a bit more there to lend a bit more life to it, kind of thing. I just realized I left out the cord on the binoculars over this, and it comes straight down about there. Separate to that has, and it creeps along heavily here on the right hand side of her body. There. Back up here, back into this. back up this way, and I'm going to use this arm to cast like a big shadow over this bit. One, two. There is a zip on these sleeves. Like even now, I've drawn her a million times. Like I'm always referring to that model sheet to make sure I have it on the right side. Kind of woolly jumper stuff underneath her coat. So there we go. Just hitting the 2 hour mark. We got our page penciled. From here, I could go in and edit these pretty handily. Kind of have all the thinking done. Kind of like what I like to do when I go things, so I can just kind of work on textures, make sure I have silhouettes going the way they need to go. That is how I pencil a comic book page. I will zoom in on things here so you can see them. You can see the various stages of roughness and details. Things I figured out, things I needed to know, space for dialogue, all that kind of stuff. Upshots, characters look big and impressive, and it's almost like a scene from like Commando here. Loads of weapons with her, and uh, almost like the Punisher laying out all the guns and stuff in the very first panel. But there we go. That is Sean from the Odds, and you'll get to see a lot more very soon. I will hopefully finish this page this week. And try to catch up a little bit on the one because this was a redo of one that I wasn't quite happy with last week. And this week's one is kind of in limbo of a couple of stages. It's not as penciled out as well as this, but it almost is. Maybe if I get this done by Friday, I might stick it onto the newsletter for people who subscribed. You can kind of see the inks on the final page. That said, if you have enjoyed tonight, and again, thank you so much for staying on, even with the blip in the stream. You can find me on Bennessy at pretty much all the socials. You can find me on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter here every Wednesday at 9 o'clock GMT. And I will have more about this very soon. Dave and I will have more about the odds every Tuesday, 9 o'clock GMT, where we talk about all things our book, about all things apocalypse, and some funny stuff currently happening in the world, like Trump in trial right now, and the funny stuff that all his legal team are dealing with. That's kind of it. That's the show. That's everything and anything. Thank you for staying with me there. If there's anything regarding the technique you saw here tonight, Feel free to other things, video clips about what we discussed here, what I kind of went through tonight, tips and tricks, perspective, why I did this kind of shot, why I dutched, all that kind of stuff. And I'll see you then on the other side. Thanks very much. See you next week. Bye.